Settlers of Catan was released in 1995, and in 2017 the Nintendo Switch was released. In 2019, Asmodee Digital released a digital version of Catan for the Nintendo Switch. Let's check it out. I can do box flips too, Rodney Smith from Watch It Played. You ain't so special. You are special. Since 1995, over 22 million copies of Catan have been sold, and since release of the Switch, almost 40 million units of those have been sold. So it makes sense to take one of the most popular board games and put them on one of the most popular consoles. But what exactly is Catan? In Catan, players try to be the dominant force on the island of Catan by building settlements, cities, and roads. On each turn, dice are rolled to determine what resources the island produces. Players collect those resources, wood, grain, brick, sheep, or stone, to build up their civilization to get 10 victory points and win the game. No, I wasn't reading the description from Board Game Geek. Every good board game app needs a good tutorial, and that's where Catan really shines. Whether you've never played the game before or just need a refresher, the tutorial in this game is really good. The tutorial is broken up into chapters, starting with an introduction, and once you start into the introduction and start stepping through it, it'll automatically play through each of the chapters. But what's nice is that anytime you can always go back and check one of the chapters, such as the expansion, trade, the setup phase, etc., just to see how those work. The tutorial actually lets you play through a scripted game so you get a hang of not only the rules, but the controls themselves. The graphic representation of Catan looks exactly like it does if you're playing on the table, which consists of a lot of hex tiles. So if you're familiar with the game, then the look and feel is already going to feel very familiar to you with how the tiles look and how they're laid out on the board. But if you want to get fancy, you can modify the terrain hexes as you level up and play the game. Same thing with the tokens. You can level up those two and make more interesting tokens than just the standard tokens you typically see in the board game. Same with the table that you play on. If you want to update those themes, you can too. All it takes is to play enough in order to level up and unlock those. Now, once you're ready to play the game, one thing you can do, you can just set up a standard game where you play against AI, or if you want to, you can play through a campaign mode or scenario mode. And this is to me where this game really shines. If you just want to play a regular game of Catan, it's there for you. You can set up multiple players, different types of AI, different levels from easy to expert, and just play your heart out. But for me, I think where this game shines is it also offers a campaign and scenario mode. You start out on one central location, and again, the campaign is kind of introducing you to the game and introducing elements as you go. It'll change the map a little bit, change some of the winning conditions, change some of the things that it provides you, and as you play, more of the campaign opens up, allowing you to experience a lot of other different configurations. One of the great things is this game includes the expansion Seafarers. That is also integrated into the campaign and how it works. So not only do you get the base game, you get one expansion also included. For me, a good interface is also important to a game. I want to be able to know what each button does, and I have to keep referring and looking back. And Catan does a good job here too. In the bottom right hand corner of the screen, it'll indicate what each of the buttons on your controller do, such as opening up a radial menu to select your action. By the way, I love radial menus, so providing this and being able to move up, left, down, or right to select what I want to do on my turn, I just think that's a very nice interface. Another thing I really appreciate too is when you get ready to make a selection, it has like a 1 or 2 second timer. So if you screw up, you can let go of the button and realize, oops, I was doing the wrong thing. Then I don't want to do that. However, if you make that selection, there is no going back. You can't undo it. So they do put in the pause for the button to make sure it's like you really want to do this, but once you do, you're committed to it. You do have a range of motion controls to be able to move around the table, zoom in or out, and this is one of the things that I actually had to learn because the tutorial didn't teach you how to zoom, and that's one of the shoulder buttons in order to be able to zoom in and out. That's not clearly identified on the screen. In fact, anytime you can hit the minus button on the Switch and pull up the controller configuration to see what each of the buttons do. Nice thing too is you can always see what type of resources you have in your hand, plus what type of development card you have. Now here's one of the nitpicks I have is when you pull up the development card, if you see the title but don't know what it is, I wish when the screen came up it would make the card a little bit bigger. You can get information displayed above the card where it pulls from the almanac and tells you exactly what that card does, but I just wish that when I looked at the card by itself, it took up a little bit more of the screen. Speaking of another thing that's hard to see is actually around the board are the harbor icons where you can do different rates of trades for the different types of goods. For some of these, I really had to zoom in to try in order to figure out what they were. And yes, I was wearing my glasses at the time, so that wasn't the issue. Oh. While I do enjoy playing the campaign mode, and I think the AI is pretty good, whether you want to make it easy for yourself or a little bit more challenging, one thing I struggled with was trades. It seems like regardless of what kind of trade I offered, it was never accepted. Yet when it went to one of the AI players, they were constantly offering trades. So my only hope many times was, well, if you're not going to take my trade, hopefully when it gets to you, you'll offer a trade that I actually want to. And actually that's another thing about this game is how trades are handled. In the user interface, you actually slide a card up saying this is the card that I want to give away, and take another card that you want and slide it down, which indicates that's what I want in return. This eliminates a lot of confusion, especially if you've ever played the tabletop version. All right, anyone want to make a trade? Wood for sheep? Wood for sheep? I'll do that. No, I want wood. I don't want your freaking sheep. All right, anybody else? Wood for sheep? Ooh, yeah, I'll do that. I need wood. Now, while I do enjoy playing the campaign and scenarios against the AI, the real fun is playing with friends. This does have online play, however, you can only play with your friends if they're on at the same time. While that's great, if both of you can coordinate or multiple of you can coordinate to get online at the same time and play, fantastic. But in many board game apps coming out now, there is an asynchronous mode where you can set up a game, invite people, and then take your turn and then put it down and somebody else will be notified it's their turn. So you haven't got to be on at the same time. And that's where this app fails a little bit for me because I'm rarely going to be able to find time where I'm able to play at the same time as my friends. So I wish I had that capability to where I can just crank up a game, invite them, and then we're off and running and we play maybe over the course of a couple days. In the end, if you're just looking for a way to play Catan on your Switch, this is a real good form to do so. It's not fancy or frilly or anything like that. Again, it looks exactly like the game board. You know exactly what you're going to get. It has a good tutorial. The campaign mode is really nice. You do get the Seafarers expansion. And if you want more expansions, you can go out to the eShop and get the Cities and Knights expansion, which is actually one of my favorite. If you want to play Catan on the Switch, I think this is a really good option, especially if you're going to play a lot of solo modes, such as just individual games against AI, campaigns, scenarios, etc. If you can get your friends online at the same time, great. It does provide that option. I do wish it had asynchronous play, and that's one of the things that hurts it for me. So if this interests you, head on over to the eShop and pick up this game for $19.99 from Asmodee Digital. But before you get out of here, head down to those comments and let me know, what do you think about Catan on the Switch? Is it something you'd be interested in? If there's other board games on the Switch you'd like me to cover, let me know also. And please subscribe, hit that like button, and as always, creative closing catchphrase.